Welcome, guys. We've had the quite spectacular race weekend at the Barcelona-Catalunya Grand Prix. We got a winner that really has captured the imagination of everybody in Formula One, whether you love him, hate him, everybody appreciates him. What a drive from Lewis Hamilton back on the top step. And now it's that time where I go through and rate each and every one of the drivers and how they got on over the whole weekend. Let's get to it. Welcome, guys. We always jump straight to the winner to go through the driver ratings. But how did you sleep, Ferrari fans, Lewis Hamilton fans, after the race on Sunday night? Still, the day after, I'm still feeling it. The emotion of that win was something quite unique. Whether you're a Lewis fan, you're not a Lewis fan, you followed his career, you followed Ferrari, you know, mishmash of who you support and followed and don't follow now. If you love Formula One, you loved the story. You have to love that story of Lewis Hamilton joining a team to try and get back to and bring them back to the top, bring himself back to the top. The emotions that we've seen through Sunday, through the race, with his engineer, it was absolutely pure class, beautiful, absolutely brilliant. And Ferrari pulled off something that we've not seen from them for an absolute age. Lewis pulled off a brilliant win. It was fantastic. We'll start with Lewis Hamilton for the driver ratings because we always start with the race winner. And it's a first for Lewis Hamilton in the Scarlet Red. What a drive. What a weekend it turned out for him to be in the end. He missed free practice one, and he said after his qualifying lap, which was just inches from taking pole position, that actually missing free practice one, I was on the back foot. Wasn't really happy with the balancing, scratching around, but yet somehow on Saturday, on the qualifying performance, he pulled off a quite brilliant lap to line up in P2. From there on, you were more questioning of how much of a menace he can make himself for the two Mercedes drivers. He split them. Can he get ahead of Russell, hold them up, play some sort of games to try and get to victory? We saw none of it. We saw a clinical Ferrari strategy, a car that was absolutely brilliant. The upgrades in Ferrari worked. Lewis Hamilton was on fire. The strategy call was decisive for a change, something that we've not seen in Ferrari for an absolute age. The engineer, driver, talk, the joy with the engineer driver talk, it's something that Lewis was so far and different from what we've seen last year. Really, you could see that gelling together, the driver engineering partnership, which we talk so much about, how crucial that is, especially at top level. And we've seen that gelling all throughout that race, and it was just this whole moment of it's coming together. And boy, did it come together for Lewis Hamilton. Because the choice to start on the soft tyres, I was questioning that because we've seen throughout all the way up into qualifying, even, in fact, you couldn't get two runs on a qualifying lap on the soft tyre. And so the management that Lewis did, and to keep it there or thereabouts with George Russell, was brilliant to get it as far into the Grand Prix as he did on that soft tyre. Still kept relatively good pace, was in touching distance of threatening of undercuts to the Mercedes, and that's what gave Mercedes that doubt, didn't it, really? It's the first time in an absolute age where we've seen Ferrari with strategy actually pull the wool over someone else's eyes ahead of them, of a competitor where they're racing for them, and for them to question their strategy, because that's what happened in the Mercedes camp. Ferrari and Lewis going on soft, going far into the race as he did with the pace that he did. Mercedes with George Russell covering him, and George quite clearly questioning that strategy from Mercedes. That was all down to what Ferrari did. They ran the race from behind in terms of strategy. They were the ones asking the questions of Mercedes. Can you do this? We'll do this. Are you going to, cover us? What are you going to do once we've made our move? And it was front foot strategy. It wasn't defensive. They were aggressive. they were going after it. And when we seen the pace from Lewis Hamilton on the medium tyres, I think that's where Mercedes were really in doubt, because George Russell's pace after his first stop was not there. Kimi Antonelli was all over the back of him, and that didn't help them with their strategy talk. And Lewis and Ferrari took full advantage of that. Brilliant stint on the mediums, a fantastic stint. Oh, sorry, it was hards. And then on the mediums, when he came in, obviously really helped by the VSC. But it was that moment where it was, these are your 7 laps, Lewis. This is race critical. We've seen that sort of with great driver engineers before as well. And Bono said it's now hammer time. It's GP, and Max Verstappen have said, this is your race. Ross Brawn, Michael Schumacher, it was that, this is it, put the laps in. Your target is a 20.9, and Lewis was 20.7, 20.8, just under 20.9. And he was consistent. He banged in the laps. He was brilliant through them 7 laps. And then the luck sort of came to him with the VSC from Fernando Alonso. But sometimes you got to create your own look, and it was that front foot, aggressive strategy call from Ferrari. They knew what they were going to do. They set their stall out. They were going to go for the 3 stops, and that sort of almost, with the pace that they have and how far he went with the softs, I think that almost made Mercedes question whether Ferrari was still going to do a 2 or a 3, or whether they were going to go with a 2 or a 3, and which the best race was. And by pitting George early to cover Lewis, they compromised their own strategy, and that put Ferrari on the front foot from that race onwards. Whether without the VSC we would have seen Lewis on an absolute charge to try and close down the Mercedes, it looked like that would have been possible because of what we've seen cars behind do with fresher tyres, at times a second and a half faster than the guys in front, with just fresher tyres. So the undercut or was actually really strong. But if you've got fresher tyres at the end, and the guys are running up on what Mercedes would have been about 15-lap-old hards at that stage, we'd seen what happened with just 2 or 3-lap-old tyres with Antonelli and Russell. The overtake was possible. So these are all bit if, buts and maybes, but Lewis drove the perfect race, well-managed strategy, worked brilliantly well with the engineer. They were clear on what they were going to do. They set their stall out, and the pace to win by 20 seconds in the end as well, just topped off what was an absolutely brilliant race. It was classic Lewis Hamilton. Back, he's got this, this mojo. He's on the front foot now, 2 second places. He stepped up now. He's got his first Ferrari win. You can see how much that meant to him and to the team, in fact. It wasn't an engineer towards the end. When you watched, I think it was on Ted's notebook that I watched, you see an engineer waiting to hug him and just congratulate him. He's almost moulding that and getting that team together now of what we've seen the great champion Schumacher do before in that Ferrari team. Still very early doors, only the first win, but it's really positive steps to see Lewis and Ferrari do that. The first team to finally beat Mercedes in this 2026 era of regulations, and hopefully with the engine tokens and the duo performance talk, apparently the new version of the engine or the upgrade that they were planning will come as early as Austria. So were they sandbagging, Lewis clearly pushing it to say we're not going to see this benefit for 6 to 8 weeks. So I think they were always planning, and they've obviously risked the budget, because if they didn't get it, they were in trouble. And if we see it as early as next week, could we see more wins on the card? Lewis is on a bounce. But for this weekend, it was absolutely phenomenal. There's no doubt about it. I'd give him an 11 out of 10, but it's a 10 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. Second place man, George Russell. This was meant to be his comeback race. He'd set himself up with pole position. This is the one where he was just going to sprint away, run away with it. Mercedes with the best car, the best engine. This was all about the car. This is all about the engine. And George Russell had put himself in prime time space with pole position, And the race went horribly for him. There's no two ways to hide about that for George Russell. He got beat by Lewis Hamilton. He can obviously say hard luck again with the virtual safety car, but the pace of Lewis was brilliant. And not just that, Kimi Antonelli in the race was far better than George Russell. He closed a 10-15 second gap. I think it was about, not 50, it was definitely wasn't 15, but a close to a 10-second gap on George Russell after the first stops. Because George got the earlier stops. Kimi Antonelli went a couple of laps later. And then the tyre advantage was only 2 or 3 laps between Russell and Antonelli. But he closed up onto him. We've seen the battle with the two of them on lap 31. Told to hold stations because they were losing time fighting each other to Lando Norris, who we'll get to as well, had a pretty solid race. And was in threat to the two Mercedes guys and into threat to George Russell and especially Kimi Antonelli. So I think the team orders on that part helped George Russell because I think Kimi Antonelli was hunting and gunning for him then. He couldn't hold him back. Well, he'd managed to hold him back then and then couldn't hold him again when he attacked him for the second time towards the end of the race. Lap 61, Kimi Antonelli got past George Russell, beat him fair and square in the race. I mean, yes, a lap later, Kimi Antonelli's car blew up or broke down, and it's a shame that it happened so close to the end and after he'd passed George Russell. But for George, this was meant to be the race. He was saying, I'm back in the groove. What a way to do it after his pole position lap. But the race couldn't have gone much worse for him. He's got beat by the Ferrari and he would have got beaten by his teammate and lost more ground in the championship as it happened. It's not worked out too badly for George Russell. He's gained 18 points on his teammate in the championship. Overall, I guess he'll be satisfied and happy deep down with what's happened to Kimi Antonelli. Fair. He'll be probably thinking, finally, the back looks on my teammate and not me. But he's definitely going to have that doubt of what's happening in the race here because this was meant to be him. This was meant to him just taking advantage of that pole position, gunning for the victory. At worst, he should have been a comfortable second place, but got passed by his teammate and had the threat of Lando Norris behind him. Also, wasn't really quick at any stage in the Grand Prix as well. And that's why I've gone for a rating of 7 out of 10 for George Russell. Third place man, Lando Norris, looked into that podium in the end. He would have started fourth, finished fourth in the end. Probably the best that the McLaren had in it. Definitely, the podium was just purely out of luck with the breakdown of Kimi Antonelli. But he was really close after that second stop, wasn't he? It was just 2 or 3 tenths. Had Mercedes messed up their stop, Lando Norris would have got past Kimi Antonelli and we would have seen a quite good battle with the pair of them because Lando Norris wasn't really letting go of Kimi Antonelli. It was only in the last 7 laps, 8 laps, where Lando Norris seemed to have just taken too much life out of his towers and then dropped back. But he drove quite brilliantly because he was under the radar, really, up until the second half of the race. And that's when he and that McLaren car really came to the front. The lap times he was pumping in were faster than George Russell, faster than Kimi Antonelli at times. And so a real strong end to the Grand Prix for him. It was the early parts that didn't quite go well. A little bit of disappointing, I've got to say, from McLaren's front, because when you look at their pace in free practice, it was either between them and Mercedes. I think he topped the first practice was by about 9 thousandths from George Russell. And so it was that whole thing of, McLaren might have something here. They've generally been really good on their tyres, characteristic that we've seen in earlier Grand Prix. And where it's been really tough in Spain, or Barcelona, should we say, it didn't really quite show, did it? So I was a little bit disappointed on that. He wasn't a million miles away, but a P3 is a really, really strong result. He's been actually driving fantastically well in a car that's just not quite there, is it? We've seen what he's done. We all lauded how great Oscar Piastri was last season, but this season, Lando Norris has comfortably got the better of him. We've yet to see where he's been under pressure from Oscar Piastri. quite like we did last season. I think Japan is the only race so far this season that springs to mind where Norris was behind Oscar. But since then, we've seen that championship level from world champion level from Lando Norris and a really, really good P3. He wasn't a country mile behind and always there with a sniff with that. So good strategy call from the McLaren boys. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. Fourth place man, Max Verstappen, and he can be very happy with that result. This car was really difficult to drive. We barely saw him in the race either. Took advantage, was on the same strategy as Lewis Hamilton with the softs. Took advantage of the safety car. That really helped him. He gained the position on Charles Leclerc. I think for all the world, it looked like he would have been behind Charles, but for the virtual safety car, and also helped by the Kimi Antonelli, which probably pushed him up into P4. Otherwise, I think he would have finished a couple of places back had it just been a straight race. For Max Verstappen, the Red Bull, despite having the best engine, apparently, according to the FIA, really struggled around here. He never looked like he was in the top 3 fight at any stage. So I think he'll go away from here looking really happy with a P4 result. Got the absolute maximum out of that car. Really good strategy call as well. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. Fifth place man, Oscar Piastri, and he had a race to forget. Was slower than Lando Norris in every session throughout the whole weekend. In the race, he was pretty anonymous, barely shown on the telly. It was the first lap where or at the race start where he'd passed Max Verstappen at the start due to Max getting not a great start, but Max made his way around the outside of him with a good battle around turn 1, turn 2, and then that was it for pretty much Oscar Piastri. Didn't really see much of him throughout that Grand Prix. Yeah, we kind of really need to step up. Not really seen the performances that we've seen from him last year. Is he quite happy with this car? What's going on? A lot of questions. Oscar Piastri's rank seems to have just slid down a little bit. All that hype of him, what he is, and the way he took the fight to Lando Norris. Die is done now, hasn't it? He's not really had that battle or got the better of his teammate, apart from Japan, where, like I said, he close to winning, but for a safety car call there, got caught out. We need Oscar to sort of show what he's really all about and what we've seen at the early parts of last season. We kind of need to see him bounce back a little bit. It was an average Barcelona Grand Prix for him. I've given him a 6 out of 10. Sixth place man, Isaac Hadjar, and a better weekend from him, much closer to Max Verstappen. Qualified well, right behind Max. Got a poor start with a lot of wheel spin that dropped him back. You're just seeing cars overtaking him left, right, and centre. Was down to 9th or 10th at the early parts of the race. And then it was just a recovery drive from him, and he was flying. He would look like one of them races where he was just overtaking everybody left, right, and centre. Moves around the outside. Good overtakes, aggressive driving, and what we kind of want to see from Isaac Hadjar. Recovered really, really well. Was this the best he could have hoped for? Probably. But I've got to say, I've been quite happy with his performance. It's one of them where he's still picked up decent points. The bad start really, made it hard work for him from there on. But I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. Next up, Pierre Gasly, and he got a really good finish in the Alpine in the end. Which was a race where you thought they were quite not great in qualifying, outside the top 10. Good starts helped, and then obviously took advantage of the VSC with his pit stop. Team strategy call at midpoint through the race, where he got told, to get past Franco Colapinto. A bit of controversy there within the team, but I think it was a little bit justified because as soon as Gasly was past Franco, he opened the gap to him with 3 or 4 seconds and was really on the hunt and looking forward. So a really good drive from him in the end. I think he can pretty happy with where he finished. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. 8th place man, Liam Lawson, and he's been really good this weekend. Another really good weekend from him in the points. Good qualifying session, good race, nearly lost out because of the VSC, but obviously because of the DNFs of Charles Leclerc, Antonelli ahead of him, really helped him out. Picked up some more points. Yeah, very, very good race weekend from him. I think he was also helped by Franco Colapinto getting a 10-place penalty. No, 10-second penalty after the race for yellow flag infringement. Dropped him down to 10th. Liam Lawson gained that position, but really solid performance. Good to see him back in the points, and now look like the Racing Bulls have stepped up their car as well. Liam Lawson stepped up his performance. He seems to be slightly getting the better of Arvid Lindblad, and that's kind of what we need to see from him because Arvid's still a rookie. Lawson's meant to be the man that's looking at that next step up and to get back into the Red Bull seat. More performances like this will really, really help him. Solid drive. I've given him a 9 out of 10. Ninth place man, Arvid Lindblad, and another point finished, and right behind his teammate. Difficult weekend for him. Wasn't quite on the pace of Liam Lawson. Got out qualified by Lawson. Qualified 11th place, but a good start in the race. And then had the pace to get back into the points. He'd be very, very happy with more points on the board. Comes home right behind Liam Lawson. Needs to step it up a little bit. Lawson's got the better of him in the last couple of Grand Prix. We've got to remember he's still a rookie, but if he can pull off these odd results where he out-qualifies Liam, just, gives him that little bit more. He is really up against his teammate, and we don't expect him to beat him every weekend, but this really kind of helps him if he can just be there or thereabouts. Right behind his teammate is the perfect result for him. I've given him an 8 out of 10. 10th place man, Franco Colapinto, the last of the points finishers. He was actually on the road right behind Pierre Gasly in 8th place or 7th place, I believe. And then obviously got the 10-second penalty after the race for a yellow flag infringement. That was when Fernando Alonso stopped on track. Lewis, can't say got away with it. Obviously didn't infringe it. Franco Colapinto did. And then therefore lost 2 places as a result of it. Bit of a shame. Out-qualified by Pierre Gasly, but he was thereabouts all weekend. In the race, Gasly had the better of him. Even though he was ahead of him in the race, but it was the right call when you look at it in hindsight of the pace that Gasly had. He was quickly up ahead, tackling the guys ahead of him. Franco, I think you can be fairly happy with it, but for this 10-second penalty, it would have been a good weekend. More points, followed home his teammate, quite like Arvid Lindblad, you've got to say, would have been a good result. Bit of a kick in the teeth to drop down to 10th place, but I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. 11th place man, Gabby Bortoleto. It's been a tough weekend for him. He was actually beaten in FP1 by rookie Paul Aron that was up alongside him. So not the best start to the Grand Prix weekend. In qualifying, he was out-qualified by his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. He was, 3 places behind, qualified in P12 while his teammate was in P9. In the race, never looked like points were on the card. Even with the DNFs, he's just moved up a couple of places, where his teammate, but for his unlucky DNF, was right in the points. So there was performance in this Audi. Gabby really didn't make the most of that car, or couldn't quite get on top of it, which was a little bit disappointing. A tough weekend, but it is still a rookie year for him. Got a lot of learning to do. I'm sure he'll bounce back. A 5 out of 10 for me. 12th place man, Carlos Sainz. And you've got to say that's actually a pretty good position to finish in the Williams, because they were comfortably third tier Formula One, weren't they, this weekend? Really struggling. The heavy, sluggish car of the Williams around this track, where it is, you need to be light, nimble about in these fast, long corners. Really exposed the Williams. It's going to be one of their tough weekends. Sainz, he still finished 2 laps down, but when you look at what he had underneath him, you've got to say that's a pretty good result. Probably maximised everything that was possible for him in this car, so I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. 13th place man, Esteban Ocon. A difficult weekend for him in the Haas outfit, the Haas car, a bit like the Williams, really wasn't at the paces. Went for the alternate strategy to his teammate. Didn't quite work out for him, but managed to just bring home the car. Pretty average race weekend for Ocon. Again, finds himself last of the runners. Not really quite seeing the best of Esteban Ocon so far this season. Needs that sort of performance to just build some momentum for him and get into the season. Rumours of rifts between him and the team don't seeming to go away. hard racing with his teammate, especially early doors, but then he just dropped back. Difficult weekend for him and giving him a 5 out of 10. 14th place man, Sergio Perez. He's done it again in the race. He brings the car home to the end. All the bad luck in the race seems to be going to his teammate Valtteri Bottas, doesn't it? Or is it just the way Perez drives this car that's just he's managing it and just making sure he brings it home? Was going to be really lucky to try and do something like he did in Monaco, but really good, strong job again from Sergio Perez in the race. He's doing a really good job in this Cadillac team, and it's hard to beat down on him when the car really isn't quite there and he's beating his teammate again in the race. I've given him a 6 out of 10. Next up, Charles Leclerc, retired lap 62. Another horrible weekend, quite like Monaco, where a crash in qualifying. Didn't finish in the race. No crash in the race. It was just a power steering problem. A hydraulics failure in the Ferrari put an end to his race almost at the same time that Kimi Antonelli broke down. Quite ironic, that part of the weekend for him. Yeah, tough weekend for Charles Leclerc. The car had pace. He had pace, especially in free practice sessions. In qualifying, when you look at how close Lewis came to pole position, just the way Charles had been in the early parts of the race weekend, you thought, had he got it together and just put in a lap, you think he could have taken pole position. And from there, we've seen the pace of Lewis in the race. Could he have won the race? Hard to say, because up into the VSC, it looked like he was, really clawing his way up the field. VSC really didn't help him. I was surprised at his lack of pace after that, because he wasn't really hunting down Max Verstappen unless he'd then seen the problem and nursing that to try and get the car towards the end. Something we'll never know, but a really difficult weekend for him. Back-to-back weekends where it's gone horribly wrong for Charles Leclerc. His teammate now is, the one taking the fight in the titles to the Mercedes. And Charles, the Ferrari man who's been given this lucrative contract, is probably the one that's thinking, that needs to be me. That should be me. Held his hand up. A horrible, shameful mistake, he said, in qualifying. A really difficult weekend for him, but he just needs to wipe his slate clean. He's got a 2-week break now before Austria. And he needs to bounce back strong. A 4 out of 10 for him. Next up are the DNFs. Kimi Antonelli, championship leader, and what a kick in the teeth. It was a punch to my gut when his car broke down. I was absolutely gutted. You can watch the watch along. It was just, I just didn't know what to do. I was heartbroken for him to see him. He said, I feel empty. It was hard to see them words. Really nice to see him give Lewis Hamilton the congratulations, one of the first to do that in the paddock. So, he's showing some maturity with this. He wasn't blaming the team. He said, these things happen. Just got to bounce back. I'll get over these feelings. It's a long championship and we've just got to look forward. Saying all the right things, doing the right things in the race. He was second to none. The second part of the race, he was flying probably similar pace to Lewis Hamilton, hunted down George Russell in his first stint. I think it was team orders, like I said, when I was talking about George, that he decided to back off on that fight, but then got the pass on George Russell. And what was it? Half a lap later, lap 62. I think he passed him lap 61. Lap 62, the car breaks down. It was so disappointing because he, a P2 damage limitation in terms of not winning the race. He would, he didn't get win number 6 on the cards. But to bounce back, he missed a free practice session that put him on the back foot. Qualifying, he was 0.3 of George Russell, but in the race, where it counts, he was phenomenal. And then to get that pass on George Russell as well, I thought it was an absolutely brilliant job. I've given him a 9 out of 10. Next up, Ollie Berman got to lap 60 and a DNF for him. Difficult weekend for him. Wasn't really doing anything of surprise or where you thought, yeah, Ollie's the man here, was there or thereabouts with Esteban Ocon, and generally he's been much better than him for the last few weekends, better in this car, but this weekend he was off the paces a little bit. I've given him a 5 out of 10. Then comes Alex Albon, got to lap 55, 11 laps down, had a stop partway through the race and then carried on almost like a test session. It was a poor weekend from Alex Albon and the Williams team. Carlos Sainz comfortably had the better of him. He qualified in 18th. Carlos Sainz finished the race in 12th, and I don't think Albon was ever quite there with him in the race. A difficult weekend. One to forget, really. I've given him a 4 out of 10. Then comes Fernando Alonso, got to lap 37, and it was his DNF and the VSC that helped Lewis Hamilton. So did his old challenger, his ex-teammate, a favour. Not that Fernando is that kind of guy, and clearly not making any statements in terms of that. Fernando is no cheat. Difficult weekend for him and his final Barcelona Grand Prix. Out-qualified by his teammate Lance Stroll, and it's the first time we've seen that in 42 Grand Prix. And then retired in the race. Was ahead of Lance in the race, obviously. Lance DNF'd really early as well. What can you say? A difficult weekend for Fernando Alonso and the Aston Martin team again. Lots of work to be done for that team. We've given them a 5 out of 10. Then comes Nico Hülkenberg, and this was a heartbreak moment for him in the race. One of the unluckiest man in Formula One. Actually, a stone or some gravel from Ocon ahead of him, I believe it was, or Ollie Berman ahead of him. He went into the gravel, flicked up some stones, and like a red shell in Mario Kart, it hit his kill switch, and that was the cause of his DNF. It wasn't an Audi car problem. It was someone that just a stone flicked up and killed kill switch on the car. Absolute kick in the teeth, because points were on the card. He was up to P9 with the potential DNFs ahead. He could have finished higher up, and it just wasn't to be. He was on it this weekend. Really good qualifying session. Got himself up to Q3 and then on the points, in the race and out through no fault of his own. I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. Next up, Valtteri Bottas got to lap 15 and another DNF for him in the Cadillac. He just can't seem to get past more than half a race distance at the moment, Valtteri. It's his car that seems to be getting problems every single race, every single Grand Prix. This weekend, though, he looked much better at parts, faster than Sergio Perez. Sadly, out-qualified by Sergio just, and then really didn't get to see any of the pace in the race because he only did 15 laps. A difficult one for Valtteri, but much better in how much closer and at points faster he was than Sergio Perez. So I'm giving him a 6 out of 10. Last but not least, Lance Stroll. A better weekend from him. He out-qualified Fernando Alonso. That's probably about as good as it gets for him. He did, just 5 laps in the race. And then a DNF. Difficult to score when you've only done such a small amount of laps. So we can go give him it on his qualifying. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. On to quickly the predictions review. Well, I had a pole position for George Russell, and I got that one right. I had Kimi Antonelli second, but it was a brilliant Lewis Hamilton that got him in second, and I had Lewis in third, and it was Kimi Antonelli lining up in third place. So I got the right 3, just slightly the wrong order. So a really good prediction in qualifying. For the race, I had Kimi Antonelli to take the win, George Russell second, and I had Charles Leclerc in third place, thinking that was Antonelli would get George Russell in the race. He did that, but only for second place shortly. And Lewis Hamilton with a brilliant win. Kind of didn't expect that pace from the Ferrari boys. Not the best race prediction, but I got George Russell in second place. I didn't expect McLaren to be on the podium, and I think they only got on there because of the DNF for Kimi. So probably would have had two of the guys right on the podium for the race rather than just the one. For the good or the ones to watch, I had the Alpine, and they had a very good race in the end. Double points. They would have finished right behind one another, but it was a 7th and a 10th, I believe, in the end. So good result from them. I thought it'd be the ones to flop were the Cadillac. And they were never really quite there. Sergio Perez does bring it home, but way down at the back. And I think it was always going to be hard for them in a car on a circuit where it really tests the car. They were not quite there, but Sergio brings it to the end. So I'm pretty happy with both of them predictions this weekend. But there we have it. That is the driver ratings and my predictions preview for the Barcelona Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton with his first victory. He was fantastic. Watch out for the preview of the Austrian Grand Prix coming up, which is 2 weeks' time. But there'll be more stuff coming in the mid-weeks beforehand. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. As always, see you on the next one.